Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise My Sexual Life. This is supposed to be for education about asexuality, so subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So, in today's episode, we're going to be discussing when you tell a sexual you're asexual and then they become more sexual. What happens and how frustrating is it? Let's discuss. As you may or may not know, my name is Sandra Bellamy. I'm author of Asexual Perspectives. This is my best-selling book and Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual. These are both best-selling asexual books available on Amazon and all good bookshops. And I help asexuals with love, life, confidence, dating, relationships, self-love, self-care, and I do vlogs as well as educational content like this one. And I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So, as always, I'm going to be sharing excerpts from my own life story, believe it or not. And in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing about an experience I recently went through. Now, I'm not going to reveal who this person is. I'm going to be very careful about how I describe them because I have to still deal with this person. Okay, and I can't not deal with this person. So I've moved home, as you may or may not know, and when you move home you have to come into contact with different people sometimes. And so this person does not live in these blocks of flats. I'll just make that clear. So they're not a person that lives near me specifically. Right, but this person is a person I didn't know, and basically I told them I'm asexual. So they were a stranger when I told them I'm asexual. Now, since I've told this person I'm asexual, the conversation has gone more towards sexual stuff. So before this person knew I was asexual, I felt they were quite like a bit friendly. And since I've had to deal with this person, they are flirty. I mean, they're married. They're married. They have a daughter. I think they got a son as well. They've been married for 26 or 27 years. So it's not like they haven't got a partner. And I think this is really hard as asexuals. When we tell someone we're asexual, some people can just accept it. Some people can act really strange around us, but other people, they tend to like take their asexuality and try to change us in it or say stuff that thinks it will get us going and become a sexual being. So I want to share some of those things with you that I've had to experience. So this person is flirty. I've actually said to them they're flirty and they haven't denied it. But they've gone from the conversation, like, first of all, like acting like it's weird to be asexual. Like I told them well, first of all, I told them I'm asexual and it's like they seem to accept it. And it's like, oh, then it was like I told them and it was like the way their attitude was like, oh, that's a bit weird now. And then they've gone from doing that to like being really sexual when they're talking. So they're making sexual innuendos when they're talking to me about things, and it's gone from like sexual innuendos, a lot of different sexual innuendos. It's cascaded into a lot more stuff. And then even one point it's like, oh, I'm not going to say something because we're going to go into those conversations. It's not good, is it? I'm like, no, it's not good, right? But then eventually that same day, this person ended up talking to me without saying the word dick, ended up talking to me saying, oh, mine is bigger than 6 inches or whatever. Which I think is totally untrue anyway. I don't know, but I'm not interested in penis sizes, but I'm just thinking 6 inches sounds horrible. But anyway, you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous that I've gone from like, say I'm asexual and not interested in sex to this person. Like sometimes they're like, oh, because I said about, so there was a situation with a hot tap, right? I don't want to go into this how I know this person, but anyway, they were to do with it's gonna sound weird now if I don't explain their position. But anyway, they were having to inspect a tap. That's what I'm gonna say. And it ended up being like this tap is hot, right? And I think I may have made a comment myself about hot. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you were asexual. You're telling me now you're not." I'm like, "No, because I can find a guy aesthetically hot. Just because I'm asexual doesn't mean to say I don't find a guy aesthetically hot, but that's it." But then this guy has also said to me, because I've got a best friend, my best friend is interested in male, guys sexually. He's not interested in me in that way. And so I told this person that my best friend is into guys. And one of the days he said to me, "Oh, I bet your friend thinks about your body, doesn't he?" Thinks, and it's just really inappropriate because it's got nothing to do with him, what my friend thinks of me. And two is it's an inappropriate thing to say to anyone anyway. Three is the thing he's supposed to be doing has got nothing to do with my body. And four, I think, well, if you're thinking about that, like someone in my life thinking that about me, you're probably thinking that about, well, you're probably thinking that about my body yourself, because why on earth would you bring it up about my body unless you're thinking that way? And sometimes this guy taps me on the shoulder, which is a sign that he's really attracted to me. Because when you're attracted to someone, especially if a person's heterosexual, but even asexuals, when you're attracted to someone, one of the ways of showing it is by touching, like a shoulder, arm, or a part of the person's body. And sometimes he touches me on the shoulder, so I know he's probably really attracted to me, especially with the amount of conversation that ends up being sexual innuendo stuff. But I just noticed since I've said I'm asexual, the amount of talk he gives me, the sexual innuendo just increases and increases, to the point where last time I saw this person, he's talking about how big his dick is without saying the word dick, like, "Oh, mine's 6 inches." Not that anyway, I don't know. He made some comment about that. It's like he wasn't, you know what I mean? It's not. It's this is out of context, if you know what I mean. But it's sexual innuendo based on the work he's doing, which is maintenance stuff. I can only say that much. I've got to be careful what I say, because this person, I still have to deal with this person, right? So you know what I mean? But I just think that it's really hard when you're asexual, and you said you're asexual, because people in your life come into it and they try to disprove you're asexual. They think because you're asexual, like, you can't find anyone good looking or hot looking. I find, that just because they're asexual, they tend to think you can't be sexy or something. Like, if you are a sexy, or if you're an attractive person, then you must be sexual. And they can't seem to comprehend how someone can be in someone's life and not have, like my best friend, for example, not having any sexual intentions with me, which they don't. So I find it really difficult, and I think it's hard as asexuals because we do struggle these type of things. I mean, I'm more equipped to deal with a guy like this, I think, because I've been in heterosexual relationships for over half my life. I've dated heterosexual guys. I've been around heterosexual guys a lot in my life, and I'm aware of all the sexual talk they have. But this isn't really appropriate in a work type of scenario setting. And also, it does go overboard. Like, there's sexual innuendo, and there's like levels of it. I'm not saying anything is right or appropriate, but I'm saying there's levels of it. Just saying, "Oh, the tap is hot," that's one type of innuendo. But you could say, like, it's more like banter. But when it gets to the stage of, "Oh, mine's bigger than 6 inches," you know what I mean? It's just like, it's too much. And it's hard when you're asexual and people are like, people don't really understand asexuality. They think, they think that if you're asexual, you can't find anyone attractive. They think if you're asexual, that every asexual hasn't had sex, which obviously some of us have. He knows about this channel because I told him. I asked him if he watched it, and he said no. I've checked it out, but I haven't watched your videos. So, but I said that I've been on the BBC, I've been on the Jeremy Viner show. I'm quite well known for being asexual. And I think because I am an attractive person, and because I am friendly, people sometimes take that the wrong way, like I'm sexual and into sex, and I'm not. And I would never ever be interested in a married man anyway. And I don't need to know about the guy's anatomy. So I think this is really difficult. It's almost like some people who find out you're asexual feel it's a challenge to try and get you to not be asexual, or to try and discover you're not really asexual, or to try and say things to you that might sexually turn you on, like how big your dick is. I mean, I'm not interested in that. Like, I walked by a sexy underwear store the other day, Ann Summers, that was it. And the woman they've got in the window, she's wearing like this sexy lingerie, but I am not at all interested in that, because I look at it and I'm just thinking, this is a woman showing some flesh who's got some material covering some of her bits up. That's it. I don't know why people find it attractive. To me, as an asexual person, that's not attractive. I'm not attracted to women anyway. But all it is some cloth over some parts of a body. And I'm not interested in the flesh. And I'm not interested in the body. I'm not interested in the underwear. As an asexual person, I like to dress nice for myself. Yeah, sometimes I do look sexy for myself. But I'm not interested in going out and looking really sexy to go and have sex, because I'm not interested in that. And asexuals have a right to dress however they want to dress. We have a right to feel that other people are hot if we find them aesthetically pleasing. But that doesn't mean to say we want sex with people just because we find someone aesthetically hot. Some asexuals can make sexual innuendo jokes, but when a sexual person goes from like talking just a little bit about, you tell them you're asexual, and the whole conversation progresses from being like, I'm asexual, to like, okay, they accept it. Then they find it weird. Then all of a sudden they're trying to change the person you are and trying to find out if you're really asexual. And then all of a sudden it goes from that to the extreme of sharing how big their genitalia is. Like, it's like, I'm not interested. I'm really not interested. If anything, it just turns me off heterosexual guys more and more, right? Because for me, I get so tired of heterosexual guys. I'm not saying every heterosexual guy's like this, right? But I find relationships, the prospect of having a relationship with a heterosexual guy, more and more turning it off when I have these experiences, because I'm like, is this all you think about? Your life must be so boring if that's the only conversation you can come up with. And in a relationship, that just wouldn't be stimulating for me. That's one of the things I noticed about my past relationship. Is like, if all the major thing you're going to talk about is sex or sexual stuff, or, in general, when I was on the dating scene, I'm on a dating detox at the moment. I'm not active on dating sites anymore. I've still got a Badoo account, but I'm not active on there. I logged in today and, yesterday now, because we've gone past midnight, and made sure my phone number was updated in there, because I do want to keep my free premium account. But other than that, I'm not actively talking to anyone. And so I think it's important to just get someone who's like-minded. I'm more and more put off by being with a heterosexual guy. I'm like, unless he's got a lot going for him, like very intelligent conversation, maybe he's creative, a musician, a writer, or does something. It's got a lot to bring to the table. I would just be so bored. For sexuals, it seems like the majority of their relationship is based on sex, and they haven't got much else interesting to talk about in their life. And that for me is just terrible. I don't want to be in that situation. Minky, hey Sandra, hope you're keeping well. Oh, thank you. I actually, I actually had a nap today because I've been exhausted with moving. So that's been it's nice to see that. It's been really hard. My leg's itching at the moment as well, so I keep getting allergies still and itching. It's a nightmare. But yes, I've been doing painting today and hole filling, which is not something I usually do. And catching up with Love Life Club coaching that I've missed because of moving. But yeah. So I was talking about a person that's quite difficult to deal with, in the sense that, I'm used to dealing with heterosexuals, but it's hard when you go from like, explain you're asexual, like and they kind of accept it. Then they think you're weird, and then all of a sudden they're trying to change it. Like they're trying to be really sexual and come on really strong. And I find this really quite disturbing. But it does make me feel like I really don't want to be in a relationship in the future with a heterosexual guy. Sometimes I feel I'm better suited to heterosexual guys because I love the kissing so much. But lately I've been thinking I'd rather be with like an asexual, grey asexual guy or something, because I just think that the conversation is so boring if all they talk about is sex and how big their what's it is, and and it's all sexual innuendo. It just gets so tiring and draining, and it gets like, not this again. I'm used to handling that type of person, in the sense I'm used to dealing with that type of language and the way they talk, because I have been around heterosexuals a lot, but it does get very boring, very tiresome. And when it goes to the extreme of even having an innuendo how big their penis size is, it's just too much. It's like, I don't need to know this. This is just getting out of hand. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why do you need to tell me this? You're a married man anyway. That's what makes it even worse. This guy's married. And he's like, oh, I couldn't live without sex. I love sex, which is fair enough. That's fine. I don't mind him saying that, because that's more of an observation and more of a, like, just telling me, because I said I'm not interested in sex as an asexual person, because I'll explain what asexual is. But when he goes to the extreme of trying to like talk about himself sexually with me, it just feels like wrong, really. Do you know what I mean? But he seems to be like a really flirty guy. And it's hard because I do get on well with this person, because he just, like, some of the stuff, like the other day he said something to me. I said, "Are you making fun of me?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "I don't know why." And he goes, "Oh, but me and you know each other a bit better now, don't we? So you can take the banter. It's just banter." So, you know what I mean? It's hard because I do get on well with him. Like, I can accept that he's like the way he is to a certain extent, but I just think it's a bit much. And I just think when you're asexual, it's so difficult because other people don't have to deal with this. I bet he's probably less sexual with other people. I think he's probably still flirty with other women, because he comes across like that. If he's really flirty with me, then I think he must be that way with other women. And when he says, "Oh, we've known each other quite a little while now, so I think I can do this banter with you," I must obviously do that with other people as well, because in his brain there must be a certain thing that says, "All right, we've talked long enough now for me to be able to get away with saying this stuff to you, if you like." But it's just weird, um, and it's hard because it's like, I do get on well with this person. I have to get on well, but I do get on well with this person because I have to deal with them quite a lot. And so, yeah, it makes the situation quite awkward, because I don't want them to be ill feeling, but it is a bit, it's a bit much. It's like, I'm really not interested in how big your what's is. So I just wanted to share that, because I think other people who are asexual, they have the same problems sometimes. And I've heard it from a number of asexuals. It's like, oh, you say you're asexual, and then they try to be more sexual with you, and they pursue you sexually. Or I'm not saying this guy's pursuing me sexually, but I'm saying, they talk more sexually. But some people, when they're single, they pursue that asexual person sexually. I've seen in asexual groups people who don't want to be flirted with, who don't want to be approached by a guy, saying that some guys do it all the more. I've even had someone on this channel comment saying, "I know I've told a guy that I'm not interested in romance or relationship, and still they bring me flowers, and still they want a relationship." And I think it's all about the fact that the other person isn't actually listening to you. The other person isn't respecting your boundaries. The other person isn't actually, like, listening to your needs, which means they'd be no good to be with anyway. If it's a scenario where that person's single, for example, and they're pursuing you when you specifically said you don't want to be pursued, then that person's not actually accepting what you're saying, and they're trying to push against your boundaries, which isn't healthy. So it means that person will be no good to engage with in those scenarios anyway. But when it's like a situation that's, you kind of have to deal with the person, it does make life harder. As I said, I'm used to dealing with some of this type of stuff because I've used to being in heterosexual relationships and around heterosexuals for years. But it seems weird that the more I've said I'm asexual and not interested in sex, the more he's like got really sexual innuendo. It's almost like it turns him on, me being asexual. And I think for some people it does. Like when I was on dating sites, active on dating sites, I used to have heterosexual guys wanting to experience an asexual experience. And it was like being with an asexual in a relationship or dating an asexual was a novelty that they wanted to try out like a red letter day. And I have to keep explaining asexuality is not an experience. We didn't choose to be asexual to give you an asexual experience. It's our genuine sexual orientation. There's a number of comments I get on here. Some of them I just end up getting really rude and horrible. So I just end up blocking the person. But, it's like people seem to think I'm choosing to be asexual. I'm not choosing to be asexual. I was born asexual, but didn't realize it. I didn't find out till 2014. I was conditioned, like many people are from birth, to believe I was heterosexual. But I realized over time that it's just conditioning. It's what society believes you're meant to be. It's what people think you are. And so therefore you become what other people think sometimes, unless you know any different. And when you're growing up, you don't really know any different than your environment around you. I mean, my parents didn't know about asexuality, so it's not exactly their fault. You know what I mean? They didn't know about asexuality. And since discover I'm asexual, they understand me more than they used to, right? So then they were aware of gay people that we had to live around from a couple who's gay, and it was really nice. My parents were really nice about that gay couple. So they had a dog and everything. So I've been brought up to know it's okay to be gay, which is really, really good that my parents brought me up like that there's nothing wrong in that. But they didn't know about asexuality. And so I was always thinking I was heterosexual for years. I was brought up to believe I was heterosexual. And that's why it's so valuable and important that people get education about asexuality in school and in colleges. Because the more people that know about asexuality, the less we should have these experiences where people really don't take us seriously. Because at the end of the day, he's not really taking my asexuality seriously. He's more likely seeing it as a challenge that, oh, she's not really asexual. I don't believe she's not interested in sex. Like, let's try and push sexual stuff, speak onto her so she gets turned on somehow and I see that she's not asexual. It's like a testing me, which shouldn't really happen because he's got a wife. Why is he even bothered about testing me? I shouldn't matter to him in his life in that way, but clearly I do. So it's kind of like some heterosexuals, so they just can't get their head around being asexual, and they'll try and do whatever they can to make themselves feel more comfortable by trying to push their sexuality onto asexuals in order to try and get us to retreat and say, hey, yeah, I'm not really asexual, you've had your way, and give in to them. Like it's some kind of like mental, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if mental manipulation is the right word to use, but it's some mental influence, maybe is a politer way of putting it. They think like by mentally influencing the other person, like by talking about sexual stuff, by trying to provoke a sexual response, that person will reveal they're not really asexual and they just made it up or something. But it's like I am genuinely asexual and the stuff is not made up. Asexuality has actually been around for a very long time, but there wasn't a name for it until about a year 2000 when asexuality.org came online. So many people didn't know about asexuality. There's still a lot of people that don't know about it. We still need more publicity. We still need more media representation. We still need more things about asexuality in general. So there's still a lack of knowledge and a lack of awareness, because if there was more awareness and situations like this with this guy that I've been experiencing recently, they wouldn't probably occur, or they wouldn't occur as frequently. They'd probably just be like, oh yeah, I've heard of asexuality before, and yeah, some people are asexual or just accept it. But this person didn't said in the beginning they hadn't heard of asexuality. Then they changed and said, oh, I have actually heard of someone being asexual. And they mentioned a guy, but said, oh, but I think it was used to cover up his gayness. But I said you can get gay asexuals. guys who are attracted to the same guys, just not sexually. And so asexuality is a real thing, and it's not a choice. It's like, I really don't experience sexual attraction to guys. I don't look at a guy and think I want sex with him, even if I'm really attracted to him, even if I love him, even if I want to spend a lot of time with him, even if I want to kiss him a lot. I don't get the urge for sex. Like, it's like I want to be with him as a being. And for me personally, I like kissing a lot, but kissing is my ultimate intimacy. My kissing and the ways I'm a hyper kisser is equivalent to how much a heterosexual can love sex if they're that way inclined. And in terms of relationship, I think the best relationship is based on a friendship and a lot of things in common, and being able to talk about different things you don't have in common as well, but can get to know each other. Like, a lot of people who are heterosexuals, they use sex as a band-aid to cover up problems in a relationship. They use it as a center focus of their relationship, and they're not really working on things like conflict resolution, problem solving, taking an interest in each other as individuals as well as being part of the team. They're very much focused on that being what keeps them together and cements it. And I find, as an asexual person, that gets more and more tiring and boring the more I hear it. And when I was active on the dating scene, the amount of heterosexuals that are geared towards sex, I've spoke about this on the channel before, it's like going backwards. It's like I'm going back in a time warp and they're in the past. Minky. It being a choice is often confused with sexual abstinence. You're completely right. Education is certainly needs more on the matter for stuff like that, although you'd think it'd be obvious by this point. Yeah, people should be looking it up more and more on the internet. I mean, all they've got is, Google. Google is a person's best friend. I remember you said that in my book. Minky is in this book. Actually, the Asexual Perspectives best-selling book. But you said something about that in your story. You said, they got Google, they could go and look it up, basically. And it's important because they can look it up. Like, I've got another channel called Make Money, Make Cash, which is my second channel I focus on the most after this one. This is always my priority. And a lot of people, my best watched videos on there are Vinted, right? Selling on Vinted pre-loved items. I do a lot of pre-loved item selling. And a lot of the questions they ask me, I just look it up on Vinted because I have to get the right information. They want to know about Vinted and specifically delivery stuff they want to know a lot about. And I just look it up in the help pages and then give them the help. But they could go and look it up themselves, but they don't want to. They would rather go to a channel like mine where I can give the information to them. Minky, Google is a person's best friend. Probably my favorite quote from there. Oh, bless you. Yeah, it is, and so on Make Money, Make Cash channel, a lot of the time I'm like referring to help pages of Vinted that they could actually go and look up themselves. I think it's in terms of like that, though, they don't feel very confident that they're looking for the right thing or know what they're looking for. So I get that, because some people, they don't know what they're looking for. They're a bit underconfident. I mean, I was a bit shocked because obviously the thing about Google these days is it does come up with AI answers first. So Google now has AI. I don't know if you noticed this. Some people don't even know it, but the first search engine results are usually always artificial intelligence. AI comes up first. Now, the only danger of this is some AI can still be wrong about facts. So if people are looking up about asexuality, there's a lot of stuff that is correct by AI, but there's some stuff that is incorrect. I've even seen some bad stuff they said about asexuality, which wasn't true. But in general, a lot of it is good, but there's still some misinformation about asexuality from AI. So if people are looking up about asexuality and people are looking up on Google these days, I actually think Google in itself is more reliable than AI version of Google these days. I'm not saying it's always going to be like that. I think AI has its place. I use AI. I like robots, actually. It's one of my favorite things of robots, and I do use AI. But you have to use your discernment and know that not everything an AI bot says is true. and the danger of people getting information now from Google where the first results are AI is they could be misinformed about asexuality in some ways. It could come up. I can't remember what it said, but it said something was wrong. I think it said asexuality is a sexual dysfunction or something. Or it said one of the myths as though it was true, and it's wrong. Asexuality is not sexual dysfunction. It's not a choice. It's not as a result of trauma. It isn't the same as abstinence or celibacy. So you might even see from AI, it's saying a few of these things that it is when it isn't. So the only danger of using Google these days is because we have AI now. It's not, in my personal opinion, as accurate as it used to be. I didn't used to find much wrong with Google in terms of inaccuracy, but with AI there is. It told me, so for example, I used was it Chat GPT a while ago? I think it was Chat GPT. I used Chat GPT Bard, and there's even one with Skype I've used before. But I asked it because I wanted a specific top, and I asked it, like, where can I get this top from? And it gave me the address of Debenhams, Exeter, in my city, which has been closed for over 2 years. And he said, oh, you can get this top from Debenhams in Exeter. Luckily, I live in Exeter. And I know Exeter Debenhams had been shut for 2 years. So clearly, I can't get that top from Exeter Debenhams. It's closed. It no longer exists. It's shut down. So you've got to be careful these days with Google that you're not getting things wrong. And also, it's better to go to a more reliable source. I still think it's better if, like, for example, if you've got people who are asexual, actual asexuals, it's better to talk to an asexual person than it is to go on AI and ask asexual questions. It's better to ask an asexual person or a variety of asexual people to get different asexual perspectives, which is why I did this book. Because you can get 47 asexual perspectives. Mine is one of those, and 46 others, right, including Minky's. So it's important to get a variety. It's important to go to trusted sources, because unfortunately there are even some AI books being written these days, which the authors are making the books look like they've written them themselves, and so they're basically lying. I've been on a course a number of months ago, a book publishing course, and a lot of people are using AI to publish books. But what they're doing, I believe it's fine to use AI as an assistant, but not to write a whole book from scratch and pretend it's your own. I don't think that's good personally. So there's a company that I went for training with, and they're teaching people how to write books on topics that they don't even know about, using AI and pretending it's them. So, for example, there might be some skill or talent. So, say they're into cookery, it might be, oh, like since I was 5 years old, I started making these recipes, and as I developed them, I found that there was gluten intolerance. So I decided to take the gluten out and develop different recipes. Just this is an example. But they would say it like it was them, like, since I've been 5 years old, I was interested in cooking, whatever. But they weren't. They were just making it up because that sounds good in the book. So I think there's one book. I can't be definitely sure about this, but I think there's one book I've seen on Amazon about asexuality. I think it's written by AI because the description sounds like AI. You get to know the formula after a while. You get to know how AI speaks compared to how our actual human speaks. And this book hasn't got particularly great reviews, and just the description doesn't sound like a human being to me. It just sounds like someone's regurgitated stuff from an AI bot and just blurted it out. So be very careful. Go and get books from people like who've got YouTube shows or podcasts about asexuality, people who genuinely care about asexuals. Don't go and get it from some unknown source who you don't even know if they're asexual. Probably they're not. And if you don't have any way of their background or anything on Amazon about them being asexual, be very careful about that, because you could be getting misinformation, and we don't want that. There's enough myths about asexuality as it is, even within the community itself, without AI creating more issues. So it's okay to use AI to explore things, but make sure you go to reliable sources to back up what that is saying and to do further research on it. That's why it'll always be important to go to people who have had YouTube channels or podcasts for years about asexuality, who know what they're talking about, because otherwise we could get into, like, oh, but Google said this about asexuality. Like, was it Google or was it AI that's part of Google? And actually it's the AI bot that said that, which wasn't true. So be very careful about this, right? You don't want to be getting books that are just created by AI bots that, the person has just made up bullshit about their background and they're not even asexual. Get it from reliable sources. I think it's fine to use AI as an assistant. So, for example, the content on my channel here, I'm starting to use AI to do a transcript for me, so that when I speak on a video, I can actually type it up for me rather than me going through it all myself and doing it. But you still have to go and edit their work because they create spelling mistakes, they misspell words, and sometimes they mishear or spell what I'm even saying, which can change the whole context. So you can't just take that and run with it. You have to be able to edit an AI bot's work for you, if you know what I mean. So when we're going on to the subject of AI, there are some people that do have, I believe, sex bots now. And I also think asexuals will probably have more AI boyfriends and girlfriends and significant others in the future. I think that is coming, if it's not already here. Research is a wondrous tool, says Minky. Minky approved to heck and back, but it should also be taken with a grain of salt, as there are bad people out there who'd happily unknowingly spread misinformation. Yeah. There are a lot of people in publishing who are not thinking about it as a writer. So I'm a writer. What I write in my books matters to me. I care about getting things as right as I possibly can. I take a lot of pride in sharing my own personal experiences and others, and I believe in being real and authentic. But there's people who are doing book publishing businesses for the sole purpose of making money. They're not actually caring about the people they're writing about. They're only caring about the people they write about with a view to making profit, with a view to that book selling. So you have to be very careful of these people, because they're literally wanting to write books, publish books to make money, and that's their outcome. They don't care how they do that and accomplish it. I write books, and this took me a year to write this book, and edit it, all the stories in it and stuff. When I say edit it, I purposely don't do much editing when I put other people's stories in my books. And I actually had a publisher who wanted to publish this under their own imprint, and I turned them down in the end because they wanted to take half the stories out of it. It's called Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, right? It wouldn't be called Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories if they wanted to take half of the stories out. And the reason was they wanted to, because it didn't go with their image. They like a squeaky clean image, basically. And this has some perspectives in it where they do talk about people, some people, not all people, some of these stories do talk about an abuse they've experienced, for example, in their life, which has led them to reflections like, for example, they don't want marriage again, or they don't want to get into a relationship with a heterosexual person again, or they don't want to get into a certain type of person. They'd rather be on their own now, right? Which can be experienced as a sexual or an asexual person has, but it happens to be in an asexual book, right? But they didn't like that to go with their image, so they wanted to remove half the stories. And I'm like, no, because I like to be raw, real, and authentic, and show what other people don't want to show. It's like I did a messy flat tour video. There's quite a lot of people that have seen that, because I believe in showing people the reality of the situation, not just the hype on social media. And I think it's important to share, like I shared in this video, what asexuals do go through. Because it's hard, isn't it, when you're an asexual person who doesn't like sex, doesn't want it. And then you do have people who are giving you unwanted comments, who are trying to disprove your asexuality, who are trying to make you become more sexual. And you think to yourself, why are they even doing that? Why is it so important in their life that you are sexual, because I don't want to be like that. I'm happy that I'm asexual. And so we have to understand that some people, they they they're so uncomfortable sometimes with you being different that they want to make you be something you're not in order to pacify them or make them happy and pleased and satisfied in their own life, because they can't stand you being different. They don't understand it. They can't accept it. But actually, the strong, true relationships are not based on sex. They're based on bestest ever friendship. They're based on mutual respect. They're based on kindness and consideration. And a lot of people that are having sexual relationships, unfortunately, they're using sex as a band-aid to, not everyone's like this, but a lot of them are using sex as a band-aid to cover up problems and cracks in a relationship. A lot of them are using it as the central focus of a relationship to keep it together. A lot of them are using it because it's like an essential component, but they use it to the point where the rest of the relationship could be rubbish, but they stay together because the sex is so good. I'm not interested in sex. I don't find sex appealing. I find a person appealing who is creative, who is intelligent, who is making me feel seen, making me feel heard, making me feel understood, giving me quality time, taking time out of their day for me, keeping in contact with me, keeping in communication with me, doing what they say they're going to do. Their words must match their actions must match their words. Consistency, persistency. Right? That's in the consistency and persistency. That is in the right context. But consistency and persistency of a sexual person continuing to say sexual stuff to you when you're just not interested, that just becomes a bit of a nightmare. It's like, what do I have to do to get you to understand that I'm not a sexual person? But you can't do anything. You just have to just think to yourself, well, they can carry on and try and push and push and push to make you as sexual as possible. But actually, that's not a reflection of you, that's a reflection of them. It's a reflection of the fact that they cannot handle someone being different to themselves and different to the majority population. And it's not specifically a problem with you, it's a problem with they can't comprehend it. So they have a lack of control. And when they have a lack of control, they're trying to control you and what you do and make you be more sexual to disprove your asexuality so they can be proved right and feel comfortable again. It's a comfortability thing. We have to look at the deeper psychology of why these people do this type of thing. And it's because it's born of their own insecurity. It's born of their own uncomfortability, if you like, because they can't handle a person who's different to them, and they want that person to be sexual. Why? Maybe because they want to be sexual with them, or just because they can't handle it. They're like, I can't comprehend it, so I've got to disprove it. And when you get someone who's putting their attention on you to disprove your asexuality, it can feel quite intense. But you've got to remember, it doesn't matter what they do. They can't change your asexuality. They can't make you be something you're not. They can't make you be something you're not. So if you've got family or friends or relatives or people you come across that are unsupportive of your asexuality, I want you to know that they can't change your asexuality. They can't change your sexuality. That is yours to own. They can't control you. And if they're trying to control you, that is a problem with their mindset, their mentality, and their inner being. That in order for them to feel okay in the world around you, they have to make you be something you're not or try to push you to be that way. So let us understand the deepness behind what they're doing is actually an issue with them. It's not an issue with your asexuality. Don't feel ashamed of being asexual. Don't feel you have to stop saying you're asexual. In actual fact, if someone's doing more sexual stuff, you can just remind them, hey, I'm asexual. I did say that. I'm definitely asexual. I have said I'm asexual. I'm really not interested. And other times we just have to disengage. So when they go on and on about their genitalia or whatever they're doing, in the case of this guy, mine's 6 inches or whatever it is, I just didn't really say anything because it's like, what can I say to that? It's like, I'm not engaging in conversation with you like that. I'm not interested. So I'm not even going to answer that because it's not worth my time, energy, and effort to even say anything back to that. Sometimes you just have to not say anything because saying nothing is more powerful. And also, we have to manage our energy in our friendships, in our relationships with others, in our work situations. And if we're constantly trying to defend ourselves, which sometimes it's good to defend yourself because you're advocating for yourself, but other times it's just better to just let them get on like they're almost talking to themselves because you're not interested, so you're not participating in their charade of carrying on and on and on, trying to just prove your asexuality. In the end, you just be quiet when they're talking and then carry on with whatever else you have to say to them to deal with this person, if you have to deal with this person. Sometimes we just have to disengage, but still continue being asexual, still bring it back to the fact you're asexual, you're not interested in that. But when they're going off on one, just don't say anything because if we start saying no, no, we're not, and the more you say that, the more they're trying to make you sexual. It can get to the point where at the moment this guy's probably at his peak of what he's saying to me, like how big is whatever is, and I'm like, well, how much further are you going to go with this? Because you're a married man, I ain't interested. So how much more, as a married person who's being flirty, how much more can he talk about than his whatever size of his whatever? It's really run out of steam, hasn't he? There's not much else he can go to unless he was doing something behind his wife, trying to do something. He will never do something behind his wife's back because I would never let him like that. Right? But it's weird because he comes across as like he's faithful to his wife, but he's not really faithful. He's going around flirting with me, is he? And being flirty. So, because to me, that's not being faithful. To me, if I was in a serious committed relationship, marriage like he is, I would not be going around saying stuff like this to the opposite sex when I'm interested in the opposite sex. I wouldn't be saying this anyway because I don't think it's appropriate. But I wouldn't be saying it to someone when I'm in a serious committed relationship with someone else. To me, that's really wrong. But that isn't something I've done wrong. That's something that he's got to live with, which, he thinks is banter and funny. So we have to understand we can't change these people, but they cannot change us. They cannot change us. I see some asexuals retract and retreat and play down their asexuality when things like this happens, and they feel ashamed of their asexuality, or they feel frightened to say anything, or they feel like they can't speak about their asexuality. And well, no, you be proud of being asexual. Just because they can't handle it, it's not your problem that they can't handle it. It's their problem that they can't handle it. You just have to shine your beautiful asexual light and continue being you. Because the more you're unmovable and unshakable, the less they can get to you, the more you can stand in your asexual power. The more they drive the sexual thing forward and try and push you into being sexual when you're not, the more they try to disempower you by doing that, and either try and get you to pretend you're asexual by pushing you to admit you are when you're not, or to be quiet about it because you think, oh, I don't want this treatment, so I'll just be quiet about my asexuality because I'm causing it. You're not responsible for their behavior, so you're not causing them to behave like that. They're reacting like that because they can't deal with your asexuality. That doesn't mean to say you play your asexuality down, you stop talking about being asexual. It just means that you don't allow this person to make you feel like you can't be who you are and that you've done something wrong, because you've not done anything wrong. I've done nothing wrong in this situation, right? This is on him. He's flirty. He finds it fun to be flirty with me, and he's just taking it to extremes now. But at the end of the day, he is a married man, so there's nothing you can do about it if he's attracted to me or whatever anyway. And I can tell he's attracted to me, like I said, because he touches me on the arm sometimes like this. You don't do that unless you're attracted to someone. There's no reason for him to touch me. No reason for him to do that. So, and that is a way of showing you're attracted to someone. It's like a flirting technique, actually, that you can use in dating stuff. So we have to know that our center core is who we are and that no one can change that. And if someone's trying to manipulate, if you like, or influence us to be something we're not, that's a problem with them. That shows their character. It doesn't reflect your character. You stay strong and you don't stop being who you are. In I had a scenario where there was a guy, I was friends with in work, but as soon as he found out I'm asexual, this guy was gay, by the way. As soon as he found out I was asexual, I told him he couldn't handle it. For a year, he was horrible. He was offhand with me. He wasn't nasty, but he was the atmosphere between me and him was horrible, as he just wouldn't accept it because he was a very sexual being, and to not be sexual was just too much for him. But after a year, finally, he came round, and then he was more like his normal friendly self with me, as in a friendship. And there was a woman that was friends with him as well, like all mutual friends together. And it took her a year to come round to it, right? But I didn't stop telling them I'm asexual just because they didn't approve. I didn't stop being my asexual self just because they didn't like it. I carried on talking about asexual. I carried on saying, "Oh, I go to asexual meetups. I arrange asexual meetups. I talking to asexual groups." The more you actually just explain and start talking about asexuality and how asexuality impacts your life, they get fed up with it in the end. But when you don't talk about it, they're like, "Oh, I've won. This person's not really asexual, is it?" Because they're weak about their asexuality. I used to be very weak about my asexuality in the beginning. I used to be like, "I think I'm asexual." This was in like the first few weeks of understanding that I'm asexual and coming to terms with it. But now I'm very strong. So it doesn't matter what someone says. I've had people on this channel trying to disprove my asexuality in comments. And in the end, I just block them because they're not worth my energy and time. If they're going to be really horrible to me and get nasty with me, they're going to do it to my community here. And I'm protective of my community here. There are some channels that don't block people when they say horrible comments. I'll leave a few if they're aimed at me and I'm okay. Like they're making fun maybe a little bit of my teeth or occasionally or something like that, doesn't really bother me, whatever. But if they're getting quite horrible and they specifically start saying stuff about that asexuality isn't real and they're trying to disprove my asexuality, I would just block them and not waste my time, energy, and effort on them. Because sometimes in life, you've just got to not waste your time, energy, and effort on people. And no response is better than responding and them just draining your energy. Because we don't have an infinite amount of energy, we have a limited amount of energy. And so sometimes just letting them get on and have their say and get it out of their system is the best way, but continue being asexual. You are asexual anyway, but continue in your asexual essence. Continue saying you're asexual. Continue in your asexual power. Don't let them disempower you or take that away from you. Your asexuality is a core part of who you are. It's not the be-all and end-all of who you are because you're a magnificent mix of lots of beautiful things, but it's still essential to who you are. Sexuality is a huge part of people's identity and how they view the world and how they see the world and other people and relationships and friendships and different types of relationships. So you can't ignore it or push it away, and you shouldn't want to. You should embrace it as part of who you are. When other people can't embrace it, we can't always expect other people to embrace the things about us that we embrace about us. We have to look to be around people who do embrace us for who we are. So when we have to deal with people, like in a work scenario or some other situation where we can't avoid these type of people, we can react when we feel we need to by saying that I'm asexual, I'm not interested. But then if they keep going on and on, if you can get out of talking to them, that's fine. But if you have to deal with them, for example, in a work scenario, you can say, look, I'm not interested, or it's inappropriate, or I'm not that way inclined. You can say what you like, but if they carry on and on, sometimes it's better just to say nothing and just think there they are going blah 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 again, because they can't handle the fact you're asexual. Because sometimes to retaliate back and keep saying stuff back just drains the energy. Like I said, there was a guy on this channel, and he was saying lots of stuff, and in the end I felt so energy drained. I thought, I don't need this on my own channel. Right? This guy doesn't have to watch my channel. People don't have to come on this channel and watch it. If they don't like the fact I'm asexual, they don't agree with it, they want to know about it, why even bother watching this channel if they don't like that content? There's plenty of other channels for them, right? But if they're on my channel, they're in my environment, they're in my community, I'm very careful about who I have in my community, who I allow to stay in my community, who I don't. And I think people, when they get to social media, they don't have such a filter as they would in real life. You have to think like would you let this person into your house? And if so, would you let them stay in your house if they were being rude to you, if they were trying to disprove you, who you are, if they were trying to put you down, if they were trying to like make you feel small, if they were trying to harm you in some way? So if the answer is no, then if they're on social media, you should block these people. You should never be afraid of blocking people out of your life that are no good for you. You know, we need to foster a culture in our life that protects our sanity, our safety, our peace, our well-being, whilst also knowing we have to deal with people in life that don't always say what we want to hear, that don't always say good things to us, that don't always say appropriate things. And we have to understand that that's not anything to do with us, that's to do with them. And so we have to try and manage these situations sometimes, because we can't always extract or delete or block these people out of our life if we're seeing them in real life, in person. That's a lot harder to deal with. On social media, it's a lot easier, really, because you can just say, look, I'm not interested, let's part ways. There was a guy who came back into my life, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was now, a Pakistani guy. And he showed up and I didn't even recognize who he was because I haven't seen him for like a year, and I think I blocked his other Facebook. And, he came back into my life just like he was entitled to see me again after he didn't treat me well before. And it's that sense of entitlement. It's like, no, you don't get access to me to stay with me. I told him that he already established with me that we're not suitable for a relationship. We've got different values. Before he left the club that time, didn't even say anything. So, and then he's come back into my life. He's like, oh, you don't have to have the same values to be together, do you? It's like, yes. Yes, you do. And he's like, oh, if you're looking for fun and to go out. Yeah, I like fun and to go out, but I'm not looking for that in a guy. I'm looking for a serious, committed relationship. And so I wished him luck, and he still carried on. And so I blocked him. Right? Because we have to have discernment about the situation. So when we can make a decision and a choice and to remove a person out of our lives because they have no bearing on our life directly, like we don't have to deal with them in a work scenario, for example, or a family scenario, we can choose to like cut off all ties with them. But when we have to deal with these type of people, even this guy, this Pakistani guy, he knows I'm asexual. He likes sex. I don't. He knows that about me, but yet still he comes back to pursue me. Still he comes back, because part of the reason why this is, though, I mentioned this in a previous video, is because some people are very lonely. And even if you're not having sex with them, which they might hold out for and still think you're going to give them, even if you're an asexual sex repulsed and told them they're not going to get it from you, they still hold on to that hope. But also because they like the affection you might show them and the closeness without the sex. There are people out there, even asexuals obviously, that are starved for affection. We're human beings. A lot of us need connection. A lot of us need to feel like we're in communication with people, because after a while of being on your own, you look around and you think, okay, I'm buried in my own stuff, but where are my friends? Who am I speaking to? I still need to have a life. I can't be totally isolated, right? And if you've got people who are very lonely at a point in their life, then yes, they would take being with an asexual without sex as a form of comfort, as a form of physical affection, if you like kissing and cuddling, for example, without the sex, which I do, right? Because they can get that, or they think they can get that from me, even if I'm not having sex with them. And that's something they crave and desire, especially if they're lonely and not getting sex from other people, for example. Then they'll take what they can get in terms of affection. So always bear this in mind when you're asexual. If you've got a sexual guy in front of you that says he can live without sex, for example, he might just be saying that in the moment, not that it's forever, but just in that moment, because he wants that attention and time, and he wants that closeness from you. Swap this out for any gender. I'm talking about he, because I'm only attracted to guys, right? But I just want to make it clear that this is what it's like. And some people, they like to talk about their sex life because they've got nothing better to talk about. So if you come across a sexual person, like this guy is clearly very sexual, to me, that means that his relationship with his wife a lot of the time, his focus is on sex, because otherwise, why isn't he saying other stuff about his wife? Why isn't he saying other stuff? Like, why isn't he changing the conversation? Why is it geared more and more towards sexual stuff? And it doesn't have to be. Do you know what I mean? It could be about the weather. It could be about my move, like how are you settling in? It could be about anything. But he's choosing to focus on this specific thing. And like I said, actually, the more a heterosexual guys do this around me, the more I get put off with ever being with a heterosexual guy in a relationship ever again. Because to me, it's the most boring talk. It's like, do I really care about the size of your dick? No. Do I care about how much you like sex? No. Do I care about your wife and you having sex, or how many times a week? Whatever. I don't care. Do I care about any sexual stuff to do with you? No. I'm not interested. And so when heterosexuals, I'm around heterosexuals that go on like this, it makes me less interested as a whole with heterosexuals in general in terms of relationships and dating, because I just think this is so boring. Is this all you've got to talk about? And when I was on dating sites, traditional dating sites, that is, or even Badoo, which does have an asexual category, that's all they seem to be talking around. Their life seems to be like work, maybe go to the gym, eat some food, see friends, and then talk about sex. And it's like, it's so boring. It's such a boring life. And it reminds me of why I'm thankful that I'm asexual. It reminds me of why I'm thankful that I don't seek out sex in a relationship. It reminds me of why I get so fed up of even the thought of being in a relationship with a heterosexual guy, where I really would prefer to be in a relationship with an asexual guy if that was to ever happen. Right now, though, I don't want to be in a relationship with anyone. After the relationship I had this year, which didn't go well for me, I'm happy just being on my own. I try to think of how would a relationship work out for me. At the moment, I'm just like, I don't actually want one. I can't think of giving any time to that. But there is a part of me that still does think about, I do still approach some guys sometimes in person. I do still give some guys my number in person. So I'm not completely like cut off to the idea of a relationship. But in terms of online dating, I'm like, nah, that's just not worked for me. So, but in my mind, like I was doing Love Life Club coaching replays earlier because I've moved. I haven't been able to keep up with that. I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. Matthew Hussey is the world's #1 dating and confidence coach. He's got over 3 million subscribers on YouTube. So I get direct access to him and his coaching team. And in one of the recent coaching videos I was watching earlier, his wife Audrey does coaching as well. She was talking about time management and managing your energy and how important it is to manage your energy in relationships. And she was saying about you have to decide before you're even with a person how much time you want to give to that person. Like how many days a week do you want to see them, for example? When would they fit into your life? How much of them do you want to see? And how much time do you want to devote to your hobbies, seeing your friends and other things? Like you have to have this idea of where you see this person being in your life and fitting into your life, and still maintaining all the other things that you want to do in life to sustain your energy, giving it to other areas of your life. And you didn't need to decide this before you even look for a person to be in a relationship with. I think this is really important advice. I think there's not much talked about in terms of energy management in relationships. Obviously, you have to give some time to the person, otherwise, why be in a relationship? But when I come to ask myself that question, like how often would you want to see someone? It does switch to like 2 to 3 times a week max. I think 3 times a week is probably mostly the limit. But but then I'm thinking, well, at the moment, I want to pursue my writing more. I want to like enjoy my home more because I've just moved. I've got loads to do here, and I'm not really that interested at the moment having a relationship. But also because the last relationship was in this year, the guy had narcissistic traits. It's better to like heal first anyway. Dr. Ramani, who's the top world-renowned specialist in narcissism, she says to have a year off, like have a year to yourself to heal before getting into any other relationship if you've had a narcissistic relationship at all. So the relationship I had this year ended in April. So I'm over 6 months past that relationship now, which is really good. So, and I actually really like the fact I'd done a dating detox. It was very hard at first to stop going back on dating sites after that relationship ended, but I made sure I didn't do that on purpose. I'm still running my own asexual dating groups. I'm still in some other dating groups. I'm still got a Badoo premium account, but I'm not active on there anymore, which is why I don't really get any likes. But I keep getting emails saying we're missing you on Badoo, so I go and log in and then go back out again just to keep my free premium account, because I got given a premium account for free with Badoo because I've been on it that long. So if I ever do want to go on it again in the future, I've still got that. But at the moment, I'm adamant that I got my time back and my life back. And once I've settled into this, I want to continue writing my asexuality book, which a lot of you want, my asexuality book. My asexual guide to sex, I keep saying every year I'm going to get it out. And this was the year I was definitely going to get it out. But now it's November and it's already going to be December soon. And my flat's in total chaos still where I live. There's boxes everywhere. There's like, I had to do filling in of holes and painting today. There's still things that need to be done in here. It's like I'm still living out of a case. I've got a new set of drawers and they're not working properly. So there's a lot to do. I'm digressing here. But I think it's important what Audrey said is to manage your energy in relationships. And if you're thinking in your head, look, I really haven't got time or energy for a relationship right now, I think it's important to recognize that and important to say, okay, I'm not going to go after a relationship right now. I'm going to plow my time, energy, and effort into myself to help myself develop and grow myself into a better person, a better version of me. Then when I am ready for a relationship, I'll be in a much better position to give more energy to the person when I feel I'm ready for it. Like, I do like kissing a lot, so I do miss the kissing. I keep having cravings for kissing a guy, but at the same time, I'm really happy to just finally be in a really nice flat. This is a really nice flat. It's just not sorted out yet. There's boxes everywhere, and it's really irritating me. But this is a really nice flat. It's self-contained, 2 bedrooms, nice layout, lovely lot of kitchen units as well. So got more cleaning to do in the kitchen because it was in a bit of a state with dirt or greasy stuff, I should say, before I came here. So a lot of it's done. There's still always more to do at the moment. So yeah, managing your energy within yourself and your relationships is so important. So sometimes when we've got sexuals who are being overly sexual with us, trying to disprove our asexuality or whatever in that way, we just have to like sometimes not say anything back to them. Sometimes we can say stuff back to them like, I'm not interested, I'm asexual. Other times it's better just not to say anything more. Like, you've said you're asexual, they know you're asexual, right? Because obviously I think it's important to say you're asexual so they know, so you give them an opportunity to back off. But if they carry on, sometimes it's better just to say, do you know what, this is not worth my time, energy, effort even replying to. If they want to carry on saying stuff like it's a bit like they're talking to themselves, isn't it? Just let them get on with it. But obviously, if you don't have to be in that relationship scenario, if you don't have to be in that situation, then get out of it. But if you've got to deal with this person, sometimes just like let them get on and think, oh God, here we go again. They can't help but being sexual. They can't help but talking sexual. And it just puts me more and more off that person, but it puts me more and more off being with sexuals in general, which it can be a good thing actually, because then it gives me more towards thinking, it'd be better if I could be with an asexual guy. But I haven't met the right asexual guy at all for me yet. I don't know if it's going to happen, and I'm quite happy being on my own at the moment. So anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you for now because I've still got lots to do in my new flat. Thank you, Minky, for being in chat. You've been amazing tonight. I really appreciate you. Don't forget to grab a copy of Asexual Perspectives. Minky, who's in chat, is actually in this book. He's one of the stories in this book is by him. So that's really good. Go and grab a copy of Asexual Perspectives, best-selling book on Amazon, and Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual 78 Life versus Asexual Life. These are my 2 best asexual selling books. So go and grab them. And if you're into superhero books, don't forget to grab a copy of Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, How to Manage Fibromyalgia to have less pain, more energy, and feel happier like a superhero rock star. And in this book, I tell you how to decrease your pain in 25 aspects of your life, most of which apply even if you haven't got fibromyalgia. It's basically a personal development book in disguise. So I'd encourage you to get that one as well. It's fun though, because it's told in a superhero style way. And there I am in my superhero costume. So anyway, lots of love to you. Nice to see you, Minky. Thanks for the live stream. Yeah, I'm in the book. Yes, Minky's in the book. Go and grab the book. He's got the book. Go and grab a copy. And I'll see you soon next video live stream. Lots of love. Thank you for being here, Minky. Thank you to everyone else. Bye.